Wallace Beery. Outwardly jovial actor Wallace Beery cultivated a friendly on-screen persona in films like The Champ, but off-screen he was notorious for boorish behavior and mistreating his co-stars. Beery was infamous for refusing to learn lines, instead improvising and stealing focus from others' dialogue. His bullying ways during shoots were so unchecked that crews dubbed him the Baboon. Young co-stars like Jackie Cooper or Margaret O'Brien accused Beery of upstaging them and even of physical abuse. The only actress who stood up to Beery's tyranny was Marie Dressler, who cowed him into submission. While audiences saw a lovable ragamuffin, Hollywood insiders knew Wallace Beery as an unchecked terror whose petty tactics made him one of the most despised actors in town. Dr. Seuss. Theodore Geisel, known worldwide as beloved children's author Dr. Seuss, brought joy to generations of young readers with his playful rhyming tales and imaginative characters like the Cat in the Hat and the Grinch. But behind the innocent whimsy lurked a man struggling with personal demons. Seuss's first wife, Helen, was pivotal in supporting him during the early precarious days of his writing career. Yet tragically, when she developed terminal cancer, Seuss abruptly abandoned her for another woman. Helen was left to suffer through over a decade of illness alone and in anguish before finally taking her own life in despair. Seuss married his mistress almost immediately after Helen's tragic suicide. Bette Davis. Bette Davis's ferocious on-screen persona matched a notoriously fiery nature off-camera. She was quick to unleash tirades when provoked. During one dinner, she verbally eviscerated a director who had dared wag his finger in the star's face, clearing half a restaurant without batting an eye. Davis's diva temperament won her few friends on set. When her eye wash was mysteriously poisoned during one filming, the police detective was overwhelmed with potential suspects, quipping, quote, 100 people likely wanted her dead. For all of Davis's cinematic brilliance, her caustic personality made her an often reviled figure. John Wayne. John Wayne cultivated a persona as a stalwart conservative on screen, but off-camera, his reactionary views often stoked controversy. Early in his career, he incongruously deemed himself both a socialist and a liberal, but by the 1960s, he backed ultra-conservative Barry Goldwater and proclaimed troubling opinions on race, denouncing African Americans in government. Wayne also condemned homosexuality, deeming films like Midnight Cowboy perverse.
What about the civil rights?
Well, we have 20 million blacks on this continent.
Oddly, he formed an unlikely friendship with closeted actor Rock Hudson. Today, Wayne remains a polarizing figure, with some shunning his movies for his intolerant stances. Walt Disney. Walt Disney earned fame as the creative force behind Mickey Mouse, Disneyland, and an entertainment empire bearing his name. However, while possessing brilliant business and artistic talents, Disney's personal social views were far less progressive.
He visited our studios, and at the time he expressed the wish that all of you could see how these pictures were made.
Behind his public geniality and whimsical creations lay regressive outlooks on race and gender prevalent in his era. Disney embraced chauvinistic attitudes, claiming women were fundamentally unfit for animation work, which he deemed a task performed entirely by young men. He also harbored latent anti-Semitic leanings, even hosting Nazi propagandist filmmaker Leni Riefenstahl at his Hollywood studio in 1938 on the eve of World War II. Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin, a pioneer of silent film, was a perfectionist to the core. His relentless pursuit of excellence often led to a tense atmosphere on set. He was known to shoot scenes hundreds of times until they met his exacting standards. For instance, during the filming of City Lights, he reportedly shot one scene 342 times. While this meticulousness contributed to his cinematic genius, it also made him a demanding and difficult director. Crew members were often on edge, fearing that even a minor mistake could lead to their dismissal. His perfectionism wasn't just limited to his professional life, it spilled over into his personal relationships, often causing strain. Chaplin's personal life was fraught with controversy, particularly concerning his relationships with women. He married 4 times, and each marriage came with its own set of complications. His first wife, Mildred Harris, was just 17 when they married, and the union ended in a bitter divorce. His second wife, Lita Gray, was only 16, and their marriage also ended in a scandalous divorce, complete with allegations of abuse. At age 54, he married 18-year-old Una O'Neill, the daughter of famed playwright Eugene O'Neill, who subsequently disowned her. Despite the age gap, their marriage lasted until Chaplin's death, but it wasn't without troubles, including Chaplin's numerous affairs. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford's legendary feud with rival Bette Davis, behind the scenes of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, became the stuff of Hollywood lore. Crawford ruthlessly lobbied against Davis receiving an Oscar, even brazenly accepting the award on behalf of another actress that year. Crawford's personal life proved equally tumultuous. Her adopted daughter Christina painted Crawford as an abusive alcoholic.
Your mother was an alcoholic.
Yes, she was, progressively more so as time went on and as I got older.
In the infamous tell-all, Mommy Dearest. While contested by some, allegations of Crawford's cruelty were widespread in Hollywood circles. She was branded a homewrecker in multiple affairs and excluded 2 adopted children from her will. Gene Kelly. Gene Kelly revolutionized dance in cinema with his athletic style and innovative choreography, but his intense work ethic often led to a challenging environment for his co-stars. Sid Charisse, who danced with Kelly in Singing in the Rain and Brigadoon, would often come home covered in bruises. Her husband, Tony Martin, once quipped he could tell when she'd been dancing with Kelly based on the number of bruises she had.
And I'm not at all upset about the cost of all your new gowns.
Well, I do have to keep up appearances.
Kelly's demanding nature extended to all aspects of production. He was known to rehearse relentlessly, pushing both himself and his co-stars to the limit to achieve the perfection he sought. In the 1950s, during the era of McCarthyism, Kelly was briefly investigated for alleged communist sympathies, though nothing came of it. More controversially, in 1970, it was reported that Kelly donated £20,000 to the Provisional Irish Republican Army, aka the IRA. While his widow disputed these claims, they have added a layer of complexity to his legacy.
What he wanted to do was change the look of dance on film.
Mickey Rooney. Mickey Rooney cultivated a wholesome image as an all-American actor, yet his personal life brimmed with tawdry escapades. Rooney boasted of countless affairs and 8 marriages in his memoir, Airing Hollywood's Dirty Laundry. He described his mentor, Milton Berle, frequenting brothels, actress Norma Shearer's affair at MGM, and childhood friend Judy Garland's rumored tryst with a woman.
First time you saw Judy Garland?
I certainly do. I saw her at the Pantages Theater, beginning the sister I never had. I'm an only child, Robert.
His accounts, including allegedly betting a teenaged Elizabeth Taylor, remain largely unverified, but they reveal his appetite for embellishing his resume with sordid stories, regardless of their impact. Now it's time to hear from you. Which of these stars was most surprising to hear about? Let us know in the comments section below.